This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On this episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Russell Williams of Holospark, and we're going to be talking about Earthfall. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Weekly. With me today is Russell Williams from Holospark. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
My pleasure.
So this has actually been a really interesting time. So I thought I was going to be talking about a different game, and they also thought we were going to be talking about a different game. So now we are ending up with a two-parter episode for Holospark. So I think this will be really cool. So be on the lookout for the second part when that comes out as well, which will probably come out at the same time. So the game that we're going to be talking about is a game called Earthfall. So this game is coming out on PC for early access. When this episode comes out, the game will already be out. So if you haven't already gotten it, go get it. So Russell, for those that don't know what the game is about, what is the game about?
Earthfall is a co-op shooter where you and up to 3 friends get together, and you're fighting an alien invasion that occurs in the future in the Pacific Northwest. So you're going to be using fences to deploy barricades and set up turrets. You're going to be using 3D printers to print your weapons, and you're going to be shooting a lot of aliens in the face. So it's frenetic, it's fast, it's a ton of fun.
So with the alien designs and everything, is there a Doom inspiration behind the game at all?
Not really. We have a lot of people here who play Doom, and a lot of us who played the last version of Doom that came out of it. But when we actually sort of design these aliens, we just get a lot of people in the room, and we just start riffing about things that have inspired us. So, we talk about things like, you remember the film Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise? Those spinning aliens and all those tentacles and stuff?
I haven't seen the movie, but I read the manga that was based on, so I know what it was about.
Yeah, actually, surprisingly really good movie. Who would have thunk? We have those kinds of inspirations. We've got we looked at a lot of undersea life. We looked at microbes, specimens. Like when you look at these like incredibly tiny life forms, boy, the idea that they are actually alive is just terrifying. So we just kind of looked at a bunch of different inspirations, started concepting, and started gravitating towards the design that we came up with.
And so people have been, because you guys have shown off the game at different conventions and stuff, and people are saying that it is Left 4 Doom. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I love Left 4 Dead and I love Doom. So yeah, that's awesome. I like the comparison. We're obviously very heavily inspired by Left 4 Dead. I'm a huge fan of the game and have sunk a tremendous number of hours into it. And I've got a buddy at Valve who I've been yammering at for the last 4 years every time I see him to freaking make Left 4 Dead 3. So when we started the company, we just really wanted to go back and sort of revisit that genre and take it forward into a modern way. Like have modern semantics with shooting and start innovating on the basic formula. So this first release is we've really built out the basic framework. We built out a really fun combat system. We built out a couple of different kinds of missions, but going forward, we'll be experimenting and creating a lot more different kinds of gameplay based around that, all using that really strong foundation of really fun, fast combat.
So is it very similar to Left 4 Dead on how the level structures are, where there's certain checkpoints that you reach and then there's a final, this is what you have to get to escape, or is it more story driven?
It's a little bit different. And the story is an interesting idea of how we're implementing it unto itself. So we have a couple of very different kinds of missions. So the first one is called Breakdown, and you're basically driving in a car and the car breaks down. And since there was an EMP pulse at the beginning of the invasion, all the electric self-driving cars are dead, and now you're scavenging in a junkyard trying to get a gas car, trying to get it fixed up to go. And it's a very goal-oriented mission. It's sort of more of a hub and spoke mission where you've got a central area that you're going away from, doing activities, and then coming back to that central area. And then we have missions like Data Center that are basically A to B missions where you're sort of going on sort of a path from one point to the other, and it's all about the journey. We also don't have the same kind of points that Left 4 Dead does. So we're a little bit more of a challenging game in that respect. So we don't have it like if you wipe, you come back, like halfway through. So our levels are a little bit shorter to make that still a lot more fun and not quite as punitive as running a long ways and then dying and then having to re-go. So we're going to be introducing very different kinds of map types as we go down the road. To answer your question about story, we have a very interesting story, but this is like not a talking heads game. We're not going to stop the action and have people kind of, go back and forth sort of BioWare style. So we put little clues in the world. So if you listen to the conversation between the people, you'll actually find out details about who they are and what happened during the invasion and what sort of led up to this. And if you look for, as you're fighting, you'll see things in the environment that'll give you clues also about what's going on. So, for example, in one of the missions, in the second campaign, you're on the trail of some scientists who are researching these creatures, and when you break into basically a room at the very end, you'll find their work. They've been working there on an early warning detection system for when these things mass. And if you look on the wall, you'll see posters and diagrams and stuff that actually tell you about the biology of how these creatures operate, what the scientists learned about them, and how they're using that to develop equipment against them. And as you play missions, we will be introducing new weapons and equipment that go into your toolbox, and also new threats as you go. But if you don't care about story, get a shotgun, shoot an alien in the face. It's always fun.
So is there any point in the game where there's like a PvP thing, kind of like Left 4 Dead, where people can be zombies and people can be humans, they fight against each other, or is it all going to just be strictly like the alien people are going to be AIs throughout?
So PvP is not our focus. I mean, if you think about Left 4 Dead, it's primarily a PvE game with a PvP mode. So doing something like that is something that we're interested in doing, but we're a very small indie team. So we're kind of punching above our weight class. Like, the game looks amazing and it plays really great, but like we've been working on this for less than 2 years, and I think we've got 30 people working on the team right now. So our focus is make this foundation great, focus on polishing that up, and then expand from there. So where we go in the future, if we do a PvP mode, it'd be awesome, but that's on down the road.
You say that it's a small team, but I think that's actually the biggest team that I've had so far on the show. So, because
I come from the world of MMOs and Microsoft and big projects like that.
Most of the people I get on the show are smaller teams of like 2 to 8 people. So this is definitely a break from what I traditionally go with. So, what kind of weapons are we going to be seeing in the game? Is it just going to be like human weapons like shotguns, machine guns, or are we going to see more like alien kind of stuff happen as well?
So, this is sort of like the evolving storyline, but the most advanced human weapon you're going to see at the beginning of the game is starts to get into sort of plasma technology, but there's something about the invasion that sort of reveals a new power source that lets us have better, more efficient power to build better weapons from. And so eventually we'll start introducing more science fiction weapons as we go.
So that will just come in later as the development cycle goes on for...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite part of the game?
I I like chattering with people. So I really like, basically we've got objectives to do, and we're trying to decide how we're going to approach them. And I'm kind of a lone wolf, and I pay, even though I run off by myself a lot and therefore get jumped on and beaten to a pulp, I'm also kind of monitoring my friends and what they're doing, and I like to come back and save them. So I guess I have that complex a little bit, savior complex. So I like to sort of like pop out of nowhere when they're getting down and throw a grenade in and follow up the devastation and get them back on their feet. I like the freneticness of it.
So you like the Rambo kind of style?
I do. A lot.
Will you be
My
able
teammates don't like it nearly as much. There's like on one of our levels, there's a flamethrower at the end, and every time we play, people are like, "Okay, you're not picking up that flamethrower, right?" Because I'm kind of the spray and pray kind of school of gunfighting, and with the flamethrower, there's a lot of spraying and a lot of praying. So I'm set my friends on fire a lot.
I usually end up being the first team member that died. So I'm usually the guy that's like, hey, can someone pick me up? Can someone pick me up? I'm dead.
Yeah, that chatter is just fun. You know, that's sort of, I like trash talking back and forth, even while I'm helping people up. It's just a ton of fun.
I agree. When you're doing really well, it's great to trash talk, but when you're doing really bad, you're like, hey, I know I said all those things, but could you guys help me? Because I'm dead.
Yeah, I more just scream like, ah!
Yeah.
Come get me! Come get me!
So for Earthfall, are we going to see a console release for the game as well?
Yes, we're going to be doing Xbox One and PS4 version. We basically got into the dev program, and we got the game running on the PS4 pretty early. But, what console's about is optimizing and being able to get on the shrink down to fit on the platform. So that's coming basically after we get early access out. So we'll get early access out. We'll see what people are saying, and we want to keep our schedule pretty free to react. If there's any serious problems, we want to get a fix out pretty quick. If people want any changes, to react to that very quickly. And once that dies down a little bit, we'll start on our series of patches, introducing new features and content as we go. But then most of our dev team is going to be really focusing on getting the port done for the consoles.
Which do you feel like is easier to develop games on? Do you feel like it's consoles or PC?
Well, the amazing thing about consoles, of course, is that they've got exactly known hardware, and that you take best advantage of it. Which is why consoles, even though their hardware is never as good as current gen PC hardware, they look really great because you can optimize for exactly that. Whereas we have to optimize across a wide variety of video cards. But on the other hand, we like doing early access, particularly on PC, because there's no certification requirements. We can just put out new builds as we deem necessary, and so it gives us a fast, fluid approach to being able to deliver updates to people, so we can react very, very quickly. Whereas consoles, you have to go through that cert requirement every time you release something new. So you just naturally can't update the game as fast as you'd like to.
And also you get more of like a say on like what exactly is going to happen. Because I know for Left 4 Dead for the Xbox 360, Valve was told that they had to charge people for the extra campaigns. But when they released it on Steam, they were like, we're not doing that. Here you go. Here's free stuff. And then they're telling people like, hey, come play it on PC instead.
Wow. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. It's kind of funny, though. There is, so as I mentioned, my background, I've done a lot of MMOs, for example. And, MMOs are all about, continuing business models, right? So this game is an upfront purchase, and then you've got the game. Whereas MMOs are all about subscriptions and then microtransactions. And so, we're always tied into what is our business model? How do we best monetize? And on the consoles, you need to have the ESRB, really set in stone. So often at the beginning of a game project, people are going to say, okay, so you're making this game and it's going to be this ESRB rating and it's going to have this business model. And you've got all these things which can dramatically affect how your game develops. And so, you might not have the right combination of the right IP or the right approach that best advantage of those things. So I'm a huge fan of microtransactions when done correctly. We just had a different vision for this game, so we didn't put them in. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of let the game find its voice. So, when we wrote the first scripts, I didn't tell people like, hey, this is our age target. It's just we wrote the scripts and saw what felt right, what sounded right to us. And so as we go, like on a console, I would be already locked into the ESRB rating. On this initial release, we don't have an ESRB. We will, obviously, when we launch on consoles, but it's this freedom to let the game find its own voice and not have those restrictions, and that's one of the great things about the PC market right now.
Also, it's a very free market, it seems like, too. It's a lot more open to creativity, I feel like. So you could have something that's just really weird be on PC and people can just roll with it. They're like, all right, cool, because there's just so many engines out there and stuff that you can use with Unity and Game Maker and stuff where you can just create whatever and people are like, all right, cool, this is definitely happening.
Yeah, what I used to do, like my first games is we were fighting to get end caps at CompUSA. So that obviously dates me. But, right now, like the technology is, free often. Computers are incredibly fast for, very cheap amounts of money. It's really democratized games. And then you add that with a digital distribution service where you're not fighting for shelf space. There's never been a better time for being an independent developer, putting out your own product.
I agree. I definitely agree. So I don't know what else. I think that's it. I think we're good.
Bam.
We got it. We're done. So everybody out there, go check out Earthfall. If you enjoy games that are shooting aliens in the face, this is a very good one to go with. It's definitely a unexpected one for me. So I'm definitely excited to get the chance to try out the game. And it is in early access, so if you find any bugs, let the developers know, because I'm pretty sure that they would like to hear that as well. So, Russell, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Thank you for chit-chatting with me. And to my knowledge, there should be a part 2 that's coming out. So once you get done with this episode, listen to the other episode that's going to come out immediately after this one. So if you haven't listened to anything else of Gamer Weekly, go check out Gamer Weekly on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/GamerWeekly, where you can also find where our YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, and every other link to this show that there is imaginable, and go and follow and subscribe to all of those so you can get like 40,000 notifications at once when I release something. So, Russell, thank you once again for coming onto the show, and go listen to part 2.